Welcome to Secrets to Win Big with Arjun Sen. Winning is fun, but I've always found winning big puts you on the path to long-term sustainable wins, and that to me is real fun. In this podcast, I bring you leaders from all walks of life and all over the world. And the reason it is very important is because each one of us are different. And because of the difference, our winning paths can be the same. And this variety is very important. A wise man had once told me, Arjun, 7 out of 10 things that you need to be successful already exist in the industry far, far away. And today, in that spirit, it's truly an honor to bring in front of you my VIP guest, Shoojit Sircar. Shoojit is one of India's highly acclaimed award-winning film director and producer. His movies he has directed include Gulabu Sitabu, October, Piku, Madras Cafe, Vicky Donor, Yahan. Many a time, I feel the highest recognition of an actor comes, or a director, when based on what his peers and those who are most recognized in the industry describe you as. And Amitabh Bachchan, India's biggest movie superstar, gave him the ultimate compliment when he said, Shoojit Sircar is many creative beings in one form of his body. Ultimate compliment. Before coming to Bollywood, Shoojit was successful in theaters and in ad films. Shoojit, welcome to Secrets to Win Big.
Thank you so much, Arjun Sen. Thank you.
So Shoojit, to start with, you are a storyteller. And what got you so excited about telling stories?
I think not. I don't think that I am a story. I think everybody is a storyteller. So I think there is we all have the creative. I think creativity inside us who can tell stories in any form. Mm-hmm. Fine. I am in a technical world, possibly in a world of cinema mm-hmm. and art, but I think everybody is a storyteller somewhere down the line. I mean, I have grown up in Kolkata. I have grown up in Delhi, and I've seen everyone is a marvelous storyteller. Whoever I've met, and so my interest of in filmmaking, actually, if you can say, mm-hmm. Came quite late, in my life. I mean, of course, we have all grown up watching films, but films was never in my agenda. I mean, it was never in my radar also. Mm-hmm. So I'm basically a sports lover, and I loved sports. And of course, in Kolkata, I have grown up in north of Bengal. North of Bengal is a complete, is full of forests and, jungles. So I think that's where I grew up. So these are the world which attracted me. So, and also till my graduation, I had nothing to do with cinema. Mm-hmm. So it just happened one fine day. My friend who was practicing theater mm-hmm. In Delhi. So he used to keep calling me, he come join us, sit with us. So one fine day, I was working in a hotel industry, and then I watched a couple of plays, mm-hmm. And I have not watched serious plays never in my life till at the age of possibly 1920. So then I watched a play, and that play, that was Nasuddin Shah and Om Puri and, Amrish Puri. That affected me a lot, that particular play. It was a play about a part story of Mahabharata. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the form, the theater, the presentation, the art, the performance, the music, everything just somehow attracted me. And since then, I think something went wrong inside my headspace that I got interested. And I joined a group, a theater group, mm-hmm. As a carpenter. So
Wow.
doing all
As a carpenter.
backstage work.
Okay.
Yes, I was very good in carpentry. So because my father was also in Air Force and he was the heading the carpentry department
Mm-hmm.
later in life. Before that, he was in a glider department. So and the group, because these are very amateur theater groups,
Mm-hmm.
in India, these theater groups are not so paying, they are somehow managing means and putting up performances.
Mm-hmm.
So my group was called Act One, and I would do all the backstage work.
Mm-hmm.
So all kinds of backstage work. I mean, uh, getting a rehearsal space, getting tea for team members, uh, doing all carpentry work in the backstage in the art department, all kinds,
Mm-hmm.
doing music. So that was my basic setting and learning, where I actually got hooked into this world of art and literature. And I had nothing to do with literature also.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so you can say that's where the actual, my journey in this field of art and culture and literature started.
So as you were behind the scene, starting from carpentry, doing everything, what was the one thing that made you really love theater?
Well, I was still then quite amateur, in terms of understanding what theater was, because I slowly started studying, then I started reading a lot, uh, got influenced by people who were around me,
Mm-hmm.
I was just in some kind of intoxicated mood of some like-minded people coming together. I didn't have any vision. I didn't have any path that I'm going to do this. What I'm going to do. I had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, I'd left MCA in the middle of, you know, the course. So
Wow.
my father was really angry, and then I left a job, and of course I didn't try for MBA also. And then something was, it's very difficult to explain. There was something intoxicating about this theater experience. But nothing was planned. The only thing was whatever I was doing, I was loving it. So it was out of my everyday life, whatever I've heard from my, um, from the society, from family, that you read, you study, you graduate, you go for a job, and of course every parent wants you to be the best, there. And somewhere after watching that play, nothing was, I was liking it. So and I was just sucked into this world. I don't know. So there was nothing particular that there was at that time. There was in my mind that I'm going to do this or what I'm going to do. I was just helping them backstage and understanding possibly.
I love that.
And yeah,
And the thing that I think you mentioned is, even as you use the word intoxication, but they also, you made a commitment. Like, to me, I'm also looking at growing up in India, like I'm just thinking, what would it take to quit halfway through your academics to commit to something? And that to me is a real powerful commitment as you look at. So can we move and talk about
yes, yes,
some of your
yes, it
films?
is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is actually, because now when you're asking me, when I go back, that decision of quitting, for a middle class family in India,
Mm-hmm.
uh, for the only son from home, from a family, getting a job in a good five-star hotel, a
Mm-hmm.
good secured job, is a big thing. It's really a big thing. Then you don't need anything. You're insured for your life,
Mm-hmm.
secured and insured. And 1.5 years down the line, you work and do this job, and then you leave for theater. Even I don't know what happened,
Mm-hmm.
but something must have happened here. Something must have gone wrong here that I got,
All right. All right.
pulled. Yeah.
Yes. And I think, that's the part where I also look at in relationships too. You get to a moment when you feel that the search stops here, and then you commit 100% to make it work. So moving from that point to jumping little ahead to some of your movies, the thing that, again, I'm just looking only from a movie viewer point of view, is you have very clear vision, there's a lot of simplicity, and you tell your stories with so much confidence, and the situations are so everyday. So if I talk about like 3 of the movies, and the first situation is in India, I talked about middle class, sex, talking about sex, sperm donation, those are taboos, like especially we didn't go there. So first movie you're thinking of, or one of the first movies, sperm donation, unknown actor, of course, Ayushmann later on immediately became an overnight heartthrob. So what was the vision behind, what were you seeing that most of us didn't see that made Vicky Donor?
Well, everybody saw it like, I think the reactions that I got as a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was a real life satire,
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the beginning, actually, because we were used to kind of films which were, slapstick in nature, crossing the boundaries, having double meaning. So for me, it was quite simple and easy for a film like Vicky Donor to cross the boundaries. So I think that's where my theater learning comes, that, that even if you're free to do anything, but there are certain boundaries. There are certain boundaries that you need to be in that boundary and work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is a freedom to do anything, but I think that boundary makes you a very conscious, possibly, person. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I decided on Vicky Donor, when the story came in and when we started developing the story idea, of course there were humorous situations, and they were all absolutely real life situations from life. Some I've understood, some I've experienced myself, some I've heard from doctors, some I've heard from clinics. So my whole attention was about the infertility problem.
Mm-hmm.
So infertility and is a huge, and childless couple who can't talk openly about this fact, and was really, it's a huge problem in India, but it's still a taboo, of course. So I was not sure that how the film will be received as such,
Mm-hmm.
In terms of people. But I knew that, one thing, that I'm going to make this as the way I want to make this film, possibly. Yes, there are, you do mistakes. Possibly if I go back and make Vicky Donor now, I would have deleted some few things, added few things. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole attention was what not to do. Of course, first thing was not to play it to the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, not to make the film unhygienic in terms of characterization, in terms of dialogues, in terms of the framing, in scenarios, that everything should look endearing and charming. I knew that this is a taboo subject, but how not to go into this world of slapstick comedy that's very easily available in Bollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing was what not to do. That became much more easier for me than I knew what exactly to do. So whether it's Ayushmann Khurrana or the Dr. Chadda,
mm-hmm.
so, or the BG, the character, or the Dolly, the mother, I think all became the part of this thinking of a progressive family and of a progressive thinking, possibly. So that's how I conceived this film, and that's how it became Vicky Donor.
So, I love that concept of crossing the boundary. And so can you talk about that one scene, which is like like an iconic sequence, and you know what I'm talking about, is the two elderly women sharing a drink, and they are just having that heart-to-heart conversation. So can you just help me understand a little bit more about the importance of that scene and how the concept was created, please?
Well, that's let me tell you a small anecdote. When the film got released, I got letters and comments and messages on my Facebook and everywhere else from all the elderly women around the country, that thank you for showing that scene, that next time when we go to a wedding, we won't be offered a soft drink, we also will be offered a rum and a soft drink or some whiskey also. So so that film liberated a lot of uh, uh, it was quite liberating for a lot of people to see it, especially women.
Mhm.
So this came from a small incident in my personal life. Uh, so I'll just give you that incident where, and then I shared this incident with my writer Juhi. So I was in Delhi and I was not earning enough. I was just managing, as I said, was doing theater. So my friends, Piyush Mishra, if you know, Piyush Mishra is a singer and an actor,
Mhm.
writer, Gajraj Rao. So we all used to, they will come, and visit my house, and in the evenings we will sit for a couple of drinks. And my father was suffering. My mother was a housewife, and she was uh, every day, what a mother and a housewife goes through. So she was not sleeping well. So one day I came down from the terrace, my friends left, and my mother said that she was not sleeping. So I said, do you want to try a little drink? So she said, no, 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 no. Your dad's going to be really angry, and I have never. So I said, you try. If you don't like, don't. I mean, if you. Uh, so she said, okay, just give it to me. Don't give me in a glass. Give me in a steel glass so that nobody can see it.
Interesting.
I said,
Yes.
yeah, okay. So in a metal glass. So I gave her a little drink, and she had that, and she didn't like the taste, but she had it. I mean, because she just wanted to have something, uh, you know, out of her everyday life. So I went back and I slept, and I woke up in the morning, and I saw my mother in the morning working and everything, and everything. I came down and I asked, ki. She said, "Bhalo ghum hoyeche." Because
Mhm.
I slept very well. So this after this, she would every day call me, when are you coming back home?
Mhm.
You know, so she expected me to give her a drink. And of course, everybody around us was very angry. And my father was really angry. I said, what? She's not addicted. She just wants a small drink and she's enjoying in the evening and she's sleeping. So this is the scene. And she slept very well. This is the scene I described to my writer. And from there, this particular scene of VG and Dolly drinking together and sharing their mother-in-law and daughter-in-law sharing their own life. Entire day they would fight, and evenings they will. Actually, this lot of the scene was also a little improvisation also.
Mhm.
So both of them never had a drink to drink. So, but they did that scene impromptu. So I think that was fascinating about that particular scene.
Love that. Love that. Talking about crossing boundaries, let's move to Piku and three of India's most amazing talents: Amitabh Bachchan, Deepika Padukone, and of course, very unfortunate for us to lose Irfan Khan, such an amazing talent. You get these three amazing actors. Now, what boundary were you trying to cross when at the core of the movie was constipation? It resonated like crazy. I have laughed my head off. But what was like the whole concept? How did this movie come up to get these stars, amazing actors, and build them around this concept?
Yeah, I think see, when we were working on this idea of this father daughter, a Bengali family, and father of course is aged, and he needs help, and he's constipated. I think it's the most common situation
Mm.
anywhere around the world, if you go, and especially in Bongs, Bengali family and an Indian family. So I think after the film was released, I think everybody told me that we are Piku, we have become Piku in our family. And there is one Bhaskar Banerjee like Amitabh Bachchan in every family.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's a father or it's a mother or his aunt or anyone, I mean, some senior person is there who is painful, irritating, but loving.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think Arjun, the most important thing about this film was, yes, it dealt with constipation, but I think it dealt with beautiful relationships.
Yes.
It's the core of the film was actually caregiving. That you know my whole agenda was about caregiving. That older people at some point they can't live alone. They need to be, that's why that one particular scene where Irfan asks, "What's your future? I mean, what's going to do? Are you going to marry?" And Deepika says that when the parents grow old, they can't live on their own. They have
Mm-hmm.
to be kept alive. So you have to, as a child, you can't leave them. You have to. They took care of us, and we need to take care of them when they are growing old. So I think that caregiving was the absolute underline of this entire film, and the entire film was based on this particular fact. Yes, you fight, you shout. There are all the time there is the problem going around. So so it was very difficult for me uh, to approach these actors
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know. I was not sure. I mean, I was not ready to take no from them. I because I wanted them badly,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because for the film to reach. And so for me, Irfan, I had informed him while I was writing. And Irfan, of course, is one of the finest actors we have, and a beautiful person actually. So and then of course Mr. Bachchan in the beginning, of course, when I went to him, he called me, "Yes, come over, Shoojit." And so I went to his home, and I told him that just one line that there's a father and a daughter, and you're the father, and father is all the time irritated because he's constipated. So he was silent for quite some time, and I was also silent. I didn't know what he's going to react. I mean, as a
Mm-hmm.
superstar, you are going and asking them to play a role of a constipated father. So you can understand,
Yeah.
we can't imagine superstars being constipated. So,
Mm-hmm.
so, and I don't know, something happened to him. Okay, Sujit, give me the script. So, and I gave him the script, and then I think I could understand that there is a nod because he's understanding, he's looking at me. He possibly somewhere down the line understood the seriousness. I have not come to him with something, just like that. There must be something unusual as a characterization. And somewhere I could feel that, yes, he has agreed in his mind, but he read the script and then with Deepika, it took just 5 minutes for me. I went there to hear actually no from him, so from her. I didn't realize that why will she do a character role where the film is discussing about constipation? She was a glamorous lady in our industry, but somewhere I saw a lot of a Bengali, a girl and a daughter
Mm-hmm.
in her face, in her behavior, the small snippets of his films, of her earlier films that I've seen. But she also just took 5 minutes. I narrated her the first scene. Actually, I performed. I
Mm-hmm.
performed quite well in my own scripts. So I act well. So I acted, and in 5 minutes she was in the first scene. She was on. She said, "I'm doing this film." So that's how it happened. But then the big task for me was how to put them together on the screen, because they all come from a different, uh, you know, school of acting. Irfan, he's absolutely a trained actor, but he's a man of spontaneity. He can go take after take, and he can keep maturing. On the other hand, Mr. Bachchan is absolutely, he's a method actor. He will rehearse and rehearse. He can rehearse for 8 hours, 9 hours at a stretch. You can't imagine how he is. He will not move out of the set. Even if there's nobody in the set, even if the shouting is going on, a chaotic set, he will keep rehearsing. And he will not. Deepika, on the other hand, she will sit down, she will rehearse, she will not rehearse fully, she'll go around, she'll acclimatize. So putting them, all three of them, with their temperament and with their school of acting, that was a little challenge in the beginning. But slowly, I think uh, they understood the film. They understood possibly that it takes time for someone to understand the film. But I think finally they got it right. I feel so.
And I think, the thing that you talked about is the movie is about caregiving and the depth of the connection. And as you mentioned, on one side, the frustration that was there in the daughter, but at the same time, the connection was so deep that you could have the arguments and everything else as you start going through. And,
Yes,
to me, another thing also that you mentioned is relating, is to me personally, after I went through a few surgeries, I just realized that with my daughter, the conversations went to a place where we never went before. She would right away want to make sure it has happened, formed, this, that, everything. And I just feel that that relatability is there in life. And also, I really feel that, again, just as a sample of one, I just feel that there's something sacred about a father-daughter that you just brought out, which I really think is an iconic moment for us, forever. So thank you again for bringing that father-daughter relationship there.
When I was, Arjun, that's very interesting. When I was making the film, and, every day some people will come and, comment that, because in the film, nothing was happening. It was in the drawing room of a family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their everyday mundane life. So the films that I have done so far, I think I have tried to pick up the moments which are absolutely that I have either personally experienced
Mm-hmm.
or I've seen them, around me. So I think making those mundane moments and picking those very ordinary moments in life and trying to make them engaging and be a mirror to them, I think that's what I love actually, and I enjoy that.
And I think, that takes me to characters. And, if we talk about your most recent movie, Gulabu Sitabu, in every movie, the characters, you literally are like an artist. You go into every micro detail. And just like, we talked about Piku, is people see these characters, either they have seen in their life or they have gone through. So when you were painting a character like Mirza, so what gets you to that level of authenticity? Like every micro details of that character is right there, right in front. So how do you get to that level of authenticity? What gets you to that level of understanding? And how do you also communicate to an actor like Big B, Amitabh Bachchan, to understand that character?
Mirza, I think for Gulabo Sitabu was one of the most, really one of the most fascinating characters. And I think he played out also so beautifully. I think it's one of his iconic performances, where I don't think we ever saw Amitabh Bachchan. We only saw Mirza.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the fascinating part of his performance in this film. That I never could, his Amitabh Bachchanish thing shouted out.
Mm-hmm.
It was always Mirza. So, of course, these characters again we have seen. I mean, I've seen these characters. So you must understand that Mirza is a kind of person who spent his entire life with just one thought of his greed for this mansion.
Mm-hmm.
So greed for this mansion is everything. He married this woman. It's so hilarious. In some point,
Mm-hmm.
and also I call this film the world of Gulabo Sitabo, because there is no story as such. It's the world that I take people and like and take them around. So I think if you go to a small town, I've grown up in Delhi, and the old part of Delhi, if you go, or old part of Lucknow, if you go, you will find a character like Mirza. You will see them loiter around, doing nothing, just faffing around, trying to do things, commenting on few things, but they have a very tunnel vision, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I created Mirza with a complete tunnel vision that he doesn't bother anything, absolutely nothing. He just want to be known as the owner of this mansion, because all his life he's been known as a person who's always been under Begum,
Mm-hmm.
and Begum is actually the one who lives with a life, and he's the one who's been used. And so his small greeds of selling coins and earning some money,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and also this film was also about a lot of it spoke about class, the class system. It spoke about uh, equality and inequalities, in that we go through in our society. In a small level where when your greed takes over and everybody is somewhere looking for a little bit of pie from that greed. So
Mm-hmm.
I think so. What happens, So I think so that was the poetic justice of the end of the film also. And so I think Mirza's character was woven with these small nuances, where his characterization was he will not be loud, but inside him there is a huge turmoil going on all the time.
Mm.
So I think that came out quite well.
And even as you talked about the nuances, the coins, the light bulbs, those micro actions showed, like, it's like right now, yes, I laughed, but at that point, you really got into the character. Was nothing was small enough for him not to go for. That was like the magnitude, as you showed, was incredible. So
Yes, I think the entire world was abusing him, but I don't think he was hearing them.
mm-hmm.
He was so used to it. Um, yeah, even the bulb or even the everything what you say it was micro detailed, in terms of the
Yeah, even when you
characterization.
started digging, so
Yeah.
it's all, I think, was
Yes.
like, puts a
Yeah.
humor there. But again, as you talked at the beginning about slapstick, I think then you start reflecting back, and there was totally a different emotion as you go through.
Yes, I think the end of the film was very difficult for us to even think also,
Mm-hmm.
and to conceptualize also. But I think the end climax of the film that's completely turned the event, that finally the Begum, you know, leaves at this age. I think a lot of women also, I think, appreciated the fact that even at the age of 98, uh, 95, she lived her life. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't compromise and be on the bed, and she eloped
Mm-hmm.
with a boyfriend.
Wow. So what was the significance of the balloon? Mirza leaving with the one balloon.
I don't know. Maybe that's what he got.
Okay.
That's what he got, possibly. But also, that's what he got. And also, he didn't leave his habit of stealing.
Yes.
So, so I think that was one. And of course, that he's become a lonely man now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he lost everything. So I think it was for him that his wife Begum, lives in a in a car with people around. So he got nothing. So I think he just got the balloon, possibly.
Nice. So Shoojit, you started from theater. In between, you did some ad films, and then now you are in movies. If you have to go back to do ad films, like you, even in ad films, you said amazing stories. You and I talked about, like, my favorite is the Radha being nominated Miss Palampur, such a simple concept with a surprise. If you go back to make any ad films, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I would try make understand my clients that please trust us,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the storytelling, you know. And I think somewhere now in advertising, the advertising world around the world, uh, I think it's always been actually storytelling has been always the most important factor. I think the social issues that the advertising can bring in, the social causes that the advertising with the clients and companies can associate with. I think those things I will really would want to add, especially uh, the recent films of international films also, which have touched upon the environment, the nature,
Mm-hmm.
or the human behavior, small human emotions and behaviors. Whether it's Olympics, where it's a mother, where it's. So I think bringing in those smaller social issues in the advertising storytelling, I think that's what I would want to surely bring in. That's very, very key and important and a responsible part for advertisers also, clients also, business houses also. I think that's very important.
So thank you. You are listening to Secrets to Win Big with Arjun Sen. And today, my VIP guest is Shoojit Sircar. And what Shoojit thus far took us through some of the concepts behind his movies. He talked about his inspiration and how he really felt commitment. He jumped in, quitting a job. And me growing up in Kolkata and in India, I really understand how it literally shook the family. But that, I think, was the big commitment. And on every story, every time, there's a bigger, deeper story that is there. And again, it's about the liberating. It's about at the end, in Skulabu Sitabu, about showing that Begum, even at that age, she can put her life first. So Shoojit, now we'll just switching a little bit. This last section is one thought, one sentence. Uh, Again, you can take a few sentences, that's okay, is when anyone watches any of your movies, what's the one thought you want most people to leave with?
Oh, I think uh, that life is simple. That life is very, very simple, and you have to be calm. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Calmness and meditative. I think that's what the films are. October or even Piku, both the films, even Gulabo Sitabu.
Mm-hmm.
I feel all my films somewhere down, I have a very, uh, I mean, I wouldn't say spiritually, I would want them to take them, uh, what should I say? That, it should bring a smile, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and it should calm you down. So that's what I want people to take away.
Thank you. So if we go beyond storytelling and films, and you also referred to when we were talking about advertising, about the bigger responsibility, what's your advice to anyone in any walk of life to be successful as a leader in whatever they do?
Well, I think first, let me tell you, I don't understand the word and I don't appreciate the word success.
Mm-hmm.
For me, what I have done is, yes, you work hard because
Mm-hmm.
you want to achieve something. Now, success may be in terms of various ways, people may conceive. And in today's time, I think money is the biggest success, possibly for people to calculate what is success.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's a task. I take it as a task. I take it as a task possibly from up there.
Mm-hmm.
So my task was to play football. I played football. My task was to make films. I made films.
Mm-hmm.
Last 4 months, my task was to be at home, take care of the family, do housework. So that's what I'm doing. Because nothing comes planned. This lockdown for the last 4 months or 5 months was not planned.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody could plan this. So my understanding is I take everything in life as a small task at this moment and I let it flow.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Even if I get something or I don't get something, I move on. So that's what my life theory and philosophy is all the time.
And that I think is very fascinating and quite deep. And growing up in Kolkata, my grandma, I called her Maiji, was always there with wisdom, and she always would explain to me the difference of karma and result. And I remember one time a friend of mine cheated in an exam, was getting thrown out of school, and I was out there trying to protest. And that day, Maiji taught me that putting your best efforts to do well is important. But once you don't do that and then you try to influence the result, that's where you get into trouble. And I really like the way you defined that, success, I really think, is on your best efforts. I really think that really resonated. And on this podcast, my success has been when my brother sent me a picture of my nephew lunchtime with a little bowl of food looking at the screen to look at the podcast. I felt that's it. That's all the purpose of doing the podcast is Agni sir looking at my podcast and he giving me his 20 minutes that he has for lunch makes it priceless.
Yes, of course.
So, Shoojit,
Yes, I think yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry.
No, you're saying something. Go ahead.
No, I think uh, I would want to, my whole, um, my whole struggle is to, not struggle, I would say, effort is to achieve absolute calmness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and not get disturbed, not get troubled
Mm-hmm.
with anything. And of course, we will face troubles and disturbances every day. But my whole effort is to attain that calmness. And I think that's what I'm doing. So that's what I'm trying to do in my films also.
So just have to ask this very trivial question. In the last 4 months at home, what's the best task that you have perfected that you have never done before in the house?
Ah, well, my life, even if I was in Bollywood and making films last 3-4 years, my life has been like this because I work in city of Mumbai and I come back and live in the city of Kolkata where the way the lockdown is, I live like this. So I think the most important factor that I have learned and that I'm living every day, I'm having to eat my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And next morning, I'm again waking up. I think this is one of the most important learnings for me during this lockdown.
Wow. So Shoojit, if Shoojit from 2020 went back and met Shoojit just getting out of college or high school, let's say, what would be one advice that you would give that young kid?
So when I was growing up at that time, everybody was, all my school students, would go either to science stream
Mm-hmm.
or commerce stream. Anybody who went to an art stream was looked down upon as a failure, as a
Mm-hmm.
not intelligent. And I would advise Shoojit to go in this art stream. It was so unfortunate that I didn't learn art. I didn't go for Bachelor of Art. I went for commerce because of the pressure from the society and everything. Because art can't do anything, and student of Bachelor of Art has got nothing. But I think the most important factor I'm learning is the Bachelor of Art.
Hmm.
It's one of the most important courses, I think, art courses, which is so looked down upon by everyone. Everybody went for science stream or medical stream or this. Nobody went for, you know, art stream. And I think I would want to advise Shoojit, just go for an art stream.
And I think, that's the advice is very relevant because in 1980s, 1990s, it was about those were the two choices. And I just think that same way society, and I think it goes back to your definition of success, defines traditional paths which are lower risk as success. And I really think that it's all about finding your heart, and I think where your heart wants to go. And I think that's a great advice for all of us listening. So one of the last things is I always find that people who are, again, I'm hesitating using the word successful. So I find that people who have a pattern of repeated behavior, that's what defines, because I find that anytime you want to achieve something, you really need to have a process. Is there a routine you have? You talked about calmness, the first thing, last thing you do to start your day and end your day that you would be comfortable sharing?
I think what I do is, I'll tell you an example. So I
Yes.
think that'll possibly set. So as I said, I love sports.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is a match, or I still play and play football in whatever way I can. I'm not allowed to play now at this age.
And what position do you
But
play when you play?
I am a midfield and a left winger.
Got it.
So that's what I play. So I was shooting for Piku. This is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about 2015, 2016. I'm shooting for Piku, and then now also. And on the middle of the shoot, there was a match, and I had to go, and Mr. Bachchan was there, and he's there. And I don't know what happened to me. I left. And I told my assistants, tell Mr. Bachchan, Shweet had an urgent thing, and he left. And I tell them, don't lie to him where I have gone. Just tell them I have left. I have something urgent. So today, nothing is happening. And, he thought really something. And I forgot in that intoxicating way that it was a football match I was going for. And I forgot that even Abhishek was there with me in that match.
Mm.
So, 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 I left and I said, played match. So he asked me, hey, what happened, Pa? I said, no, I packed up the shoot and I told them I'm going. Oh, okay. And next morning I knew Mr. Bachchan came and he asked me, you playing a football match? I said, yes. Yes. So I said, yes, sir. Sorry, sir. I had to go and play a match. But then, no, it's okay. He didn't tell anything because his son was there also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my mantra for myself, I sometimes go, yes, there are anxiety bursts when you have work, you have something to do, something. But my mantra is I get off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take the pressure. For example, let me tell you, if you allow me to explain this, what you asked
Absolutely.
me, very
Absolutely.
interesting thing you have asked me. Surviving in Mumbai, in Bollywood, with your kind of films, which, like the films, these are films with a lot of taboo, whether it's Vicky Donor or Piku,
Mm-hmm.
or films like October,
Mm-hmm.
which deals with neuroscience.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in a neuroscience and what happens to a family and what happens between this boy and a girl. If you see October also, you don't know what this boy is doing in this hospital for a friend. There is no particular reason for him to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And the end. And even if you see Gulabo Sitabo. So I think surviving in Mumbai with your own terms, in terms of doing films that you wish to do and not get, there's a lot of external pressure otherwise of this movie will work or not work, what is the box office and everything. So far I've been doing the films the way I have conceived myself or visioned myself. So I've not, I wouldn't call myself a rebel as such in myself, but I have done those films with complete integrity.
Mm-hmm.
What compels me from inside me to tell that particular story. So I think that's what I had lived with as a routine. I have been a little like a football player, like
Mm-hmm.
every time on the pitch and playing and dribbling and moving on. So not stopping. So that's how I have lived. One another important factor that I have adapted slowly, since, I mean, to understand life, it takes a lot of time, it takes, I hope I would have understood a lot of things quite early in my life. My life would have been much better possibly in terms of understanding. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
whatever age you learn, you learn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, so I think uh, to sit quietly and not talk, I think has helped me a lot. Just sit quietly and just not to think and stop your brain. I think that has helped me a lot, and that's what my routine is. So,
So to me, there are two
so
threads that you talked about all through. One about calmness, and that you talked about, I think, sitting quietly. And second, that rebel in you, who once you find a path, you do it your way, whether it was leaving for theater and then, doing the movies, creating your own path, which was what felt comfortable. Anything you want to share about your upcoming movie or project, or anything else that you want to talk about?
yes, my next film, which is now in a post-production stage, is actually based on a true event. Uh, it's about Shahid Udham Singh. The name of the film is Sadar Udham. Uh, Udham Singh. It's a period film. He went to London and in the and he assassinated Governor O'Dwyer. So I think the story is about him. So you can say it's a biopic about this freedom fighter.
Thank you, Shoojit. And of course, all of us are looking forward to that movie. So in this podcast, Shoojit, a few things that really hit hard is, even though we started talking about theater and movies, I am taking a bigger picture learning is life is simple. And as you start going through, you have to be you have to create your own path. And for you, even though the advice you talked about, you did not go into the bachelor's of arts and everything, but you found your path. And I just think that another thing was an amazing aha towards the end you talked about was, it's never too late to learn what you want to do. And I just remember my daughter and myself, we were just driving back after a lot of college trips when she told me that she finally knew what she was going to do. And she didn't want to be in marketing like me. And my whole thought process was, wow, at 21, you at least know what you want to do. And I was, I think, 45. I still had no clue what I want. So I really think that whole concept of knowing what you want is truly appreciated. So again, Shoojit, thank you so much for taking time and sharing from your heart today. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun Sen, and thank you, Arjun, to your all backstage team. So many thanks, and thank you to all the listeners.
Absolutely. And on that spirit, I also want to thank Partha Sinha, President of Times of India Group, for making this interview happen. He just, was amazing. And Shoojit, also, I would take just a second to do a little shout out for my baby brother, Arjun Sen, who I think plays soccer with you and inspires me every day. He too grew up in that world where science or commerce was the only two ways. And he chose and created his own path. And he is, even though he's younger than me, inspires all of us in the family. And his miniseries Ashur is being recognized. And again, wanted to put a plug in for that. If you all have not seen it, please look at it. I just absolutely loved it.
Yes, Oni is my soccer friend, and Oni is he's another very, very good human being. And I think he's a very good, very talented filmmaker too.
So thank you. So thank you all for listening to Secrets to Win Big with Arjun Sen. Please subscribe, share, and review the podcast with your friends and family. Happy listening, and looking forward to bringing you great insights and great conversation from another leader, from another walk of life, from another corner of the world soon. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.